Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight as Mike Cobb goes through updates with ECI. There's quite a bit going on behind the scenes. And since you have an interest in joining us from a shareholder perspective, we wanted to make sure that information got relayed onto you. So this presentation is going to be a little different. Instead of the standard share presentation, which you may have seen a couple of times, we're going to give you the updates and then leave room for questions and answers. So I know sometimes it takes a moment or two to load up GoToWebinar. So in the meantime, why don't you type into the control panel where it is you're calling in from. All you have to do is go to the question section, type in your name and where it is you're calling in from, and we will read those out loud. And sometimes you never know, there may be somebody sitting in the town over from you who's listening as well. So question section of the control panel, and so far we have Lori from Missouri, Peter from Calgary, Tim in Dallas, in Detroit there's Ron, Josephine is in Houston, Matt is in Rye, Lewis, San Francisco, Joseph in Boulder, Caleb in Toronto, we have Mike in Birmingham, Dave in Seattle, and it looks like we have more folks that are logging in here, which is great. All you have to do is type there into the question section of the control panel, and we'll read that out loud. So with that, we have one more here. Carl is in Chicago, David from Crestwood, Kentucky. Awesome. Well, thank you. We have a very good group of people coming on. I still see that there are a few more folks loading. But with that, I'll introduce Mike Cobb, CEO of ECI Development, one of the co-founders as well. And Mike, the show is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rachel, and thanks everybody for joining us this evening. We're going to keep it real short. I think in email I sent out, I said 5 or 6 slides. It ended up being about, I think, 18 slides, but I did promise we'd keep it to 15 minutes, and we are going to do that. So we're going to jump right in, and really this is an update. There's not much history of the company or big picture stuff. It's very, very specific on what the company's doing right now, where we are, and where we're going next in the next few months to a couple years. So again, just to kind of set the picture, you know, the whole focus of the company is being able to serve clients throughout the region, not in one country, one destination, and being able to listen to what they want. And this expansion of the company, where we are today, and the acquisitions that we've just made, we'll talk about one of the acquisitions we just made, and then the acquisitions that are pending, really let us focus on our mission statement and deliver more to the consumer than we can today. So as we go on, here's where we are today, which is very, very exciting. We've got our Marriott residences in Belize, our Grand Bayman, which is also in Belize, a brand new tiny home community in Belize. These are going to be built on one of our most recent property acquisitions in Belize on Ambergris Caye. But these will be beautiful over-the-water homes, small homes, tiny homes, but they are spectacular, and we're very, very excited. You're hearing about it very early on. We don't have all the details at this point, but we want to let you know that it's coming, and it will be a product offering for the company. I believe Rachel has already taken reservation deposits. People have given us a deposit to have a first choice, second choice, third choice. I don't know how many she has reserved at this point. But the market acceptance of this product has been phenomenal. Then the next one is actually that most recent acquisition I mentioned, which is our Argentina joint venture project. And this is a real picture from the lodge, from one of the guest rooms at the lodge. We have about 700 acres of mature vineyard. Right now is harvest season. They are expecting about 3.5 million kilograms of grapes to be harvested, and that puts out about the same number of bottles. Interesting. It takes about 1 kilogram of grapes to make a bottle of wine. So about 3.5 million bottles of wine will be produced from our vineyard. The lodge is there, one of the homes is there. We're going to get into that later, but that's brand new. We just made that acquisition about 5 weeks ago now. It's also where our annual shareholder meeting will be held this year. So if you are a shareholder, or if you're thinking about becoming a shareholder, and I know a lot of folks on this webinar this evening are thinking about it, you know, maybe you want to come down to Mendoza, Argentina, and come to the shareholder meeting. You're invited, you're welcome. You'll get a very, very detailed presentation about the company, where we are, and what's happening in the future. And that's really what we're going to focus on tonight. We have our Costa Rica property, we have our Nicaragua property, we have our property in Panama, and then also the agricultural opportunities right now in Nicaragua with our teak properties there. So here are the major points that we're going to cover this evening. The Argentina, which I just touched on, the over-the-water bungalows, the hacienda condos, which are also in Belize, the groundbreaking on the Belize Marriott, which is very, very exciting, 2 properties in Costa Rica, Highlands property and one on the Pacific, and then also a very specific property, which is on a marina in Costa Rica. It's the Golfito Marina. These will be joint ventures, and I say cashless, very low cash. Obviously there's some due diligence costs, there's some transfer taxes and things like that, but there's no acquisition cost for the company. We're going to talk about why that's important later. And then also our syndication of the teak, and then our global affiliate program. So these are the major points we're going to cover. This again is our property in Argentina, Mendoza, again from the lodge, looking out at the mountains, just a spectacular location. Here's the harvest underway right now, producing all kinds of wines. I think we have 11 different grapes, and it produces 30 or 40 different types of wine, because they do blending as well. This is a picture of the lodge taken recently from a drone. On the left side, you will see a site plan that we're developing for tiny homes, additional condominiums in and around the guest house. These will be for sale shortly. The guest house itself is in the picture in the bottom right corner, and you can see it on the left side. The home sites are the cleared area in between the vineyards. These are serviced home sites, 84 home sites available for sale right now, and the first home is already completed. That home is for sale at $299,000, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, beautiful home. Same thing in Napa Valley would run a consumer probably 4 to 10 times that much. So very, very affordable for the same lifestyle, same experience. And then these tiny home community that we're going to build. These tiny homes again are very, very sexy product. It's really a vacation property or a rental property for clients, but it is a wonderful product for us to be able to bring to the marketplace, because again, it's in high demand. The same concept in Belize, the overwater bungalows. You can see them again. It's a tiny house concept. The island of Ambergris Caye is in the picture below. There's an inset that shows Ambergris Caye, and directly across from the town of San Pedro, across a little bay of water, it's still Ambergris Caye. We've got 18 properties there that we own, and we're going to be developing these tiny homes. And again, Rachel can fill us in later with the exact number of reservations that have been taken to date. But incredible market acceptance. With nothing more than some pictures and some renderings at this point. Our operations team and legal team are going through all of the various permits that we have to have, architectural construction documents, and then the legal framework for ownership and the sales contracts and the homeowners contracts. All of that is in process and will be available shortly. So bringing this to the market in the very, very near future. These condominiums are just off the water. As you can see, they have a canal to them. This is the bay looking back towards the tiny homes. The tiny homes are actually in the distance in that upper right picture. These are residential products. They're not sexy, but they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath products in under $200,000 on Ambergris Caye. We were fortunate to here just pick up 4 of them. But again, being able to offer these into the marketplace attracts a different type of consumer and lets us really test the market for the rest of our residential product. Here's something that's very, very exciting. This is happening right now. This is resort. It's not residential. It's resort oriented. We're breaking ground on the Marriott the end of April, right after the Easter holidays, after the spring break season is over. We're going to be tearing down the existing Exotic Key Resort and starting the Marriott residences and resort. This is a big deal for the company. It's a big deal for the country of Belize, certainly for the island of Ambergris Caye. This is a transitional moment for the country, and for folks who are part of ECI, it's transitional for us as well. Moving to another focal point is the joint venture in Costa Rica. This is the marina at Golfito. It is a beautiful, beautiful location in southern Costa Rica on the Pacific side. The marina exists, it's there today. A lot of the other imagery behind the marina is actually artistically rendered, but the marina is there. I just visited about 3 weeks ago. This will be a joint venture. It's not going to cost us upfront money to partner and make this land acquisition. One of the principals in this is our partner in Costa Rica today with our Grand Caribbean project, and this will be the ability to get in and build out a marina property ahead of developing the Grand Caribbean property in the future, which is also slated to be a marina, but on the Caribbean side. This is on the Pacific. The marina exists, and then we can build out the rest of the residential and resort properties with it. Our partner there, who owns the Golfito and owns part of our property in the Grand Caribbean project, also has properties in the Highlands, near Manuel Antonio, and in the Guanacaste Peninsula. He is willing to, as with Golfito, to put these properties into ECI for us to do the development, the sales of the property, and then pay him out on the back end. What this means for the company, I said I would come back to this later, and I'm coming back to it right now. What this means for the company is our ability to add tremendous assets, over 2,000 acres of property, coastal property in Costa Rica on the Pacific, without any hard cash outlay. This is phenomenal. We're going to be able to grow our business, grow the ability to serve more consumers, customers who are looking for a product in Costa Rica today. We have our Grand Caribbean in Costa Rica, but we're not going to begin developing that until after we take the company public, and that will be in 2021. And so by the time we go through permitting and get something underway there, it'll be 2024, 2025. This gives us the ability to serve a consumer in Costa Rica immediately, both properties in the Highlands, which is the springtime all the time, property along the coast, and then also a very, very specific product, which is the Golfito Marina. All of this without any major cash outlays. Very, very exciting development for the company. We also have the syndication of our teak properties. We continue to plant teak at Grand Pacifica. If we sell that teak, as you can see here, we've got it priced out. We continue to sell some parcels, but we continue to plant more than we sell. The reason is that as we sell these properties, the teak properties, the money comes back into Grand Pacifica, which is part of ECI. But all the properties we don't sell, those trees will mature. There will be thinning proceeds, and then there'll be a harvest proceed in 25 years. Those proceeds are incredible. The type of return, we're talking about 11, 12, 13% IRRs. And when you run that kind of an IRR over 25 years, it's a phenomenal number. And I know a lot of shareholders think, well, I'm not going to be around in 25 years, or I want out before that. Here's the really great thing. The net present value of something like 11, 12, 13% IRR is very, very high. So even if we sell those assets, or the company goes public and we don't sell the assets, but they get valued to a net present value, it is extremely valuable to the company because those assets have value in 25 years. So this is a big asset builder for the company. If we sell the properties, it's cash flow. If we don't sell the properties, it's an extreme asset increase for the company. And here we are with the last of the major updates, which is our global affiliate program. This is something that I have been focused on for several years now. I've been working with the National Association of Realtors for about 13 years, many of their staff members in their global division, to build a program for US and Canadian realtors to help their clients in the United States and Canada locate and then acquire property overseas. Well, it's going very, very well. I'm on the road. I'm on the speaking circuit, and I've we do tremendous work with these realtors. We're able to deliver a product and a solution that they need, that their clients need. It's called the Global Affiliate Program, and it's a set of tools that help realtors identify people in their network who are looking at property overseas, and then refer them to us or refer them out. It doesn't matter, but the ones we have referred to us, obviously that's business for our company, and then help qualify those clients and help their clients kind of work through the process of understanding what it is they want, where in the world they want to be. And it really folds in very, very nicely to this concept of our mission statement, which is listening to what clients want and then serving them with that property. So all of this folds together nicely. The Global Affiliate Program, the expansion into Costa Rica, the Highlands properties, the Marina property in Golfito, and then also a property in Ecuador. That is one additional acquisition that's very, very strategic for the company, and that's something that we are pursuing now as well. So this is the two major acquisitions that are on the front burner, both of which would require some cash. Ecuador certainly, the Belize 950 acres, not nearly as much. The good news is that we're in the position to raise additional capital, which is what we're doing, which is why presumably you're on this webinar this evening. You want to understand what we're doing and what your investment would be used for. Well, the acquisition in Ecuador is front and center. It's top line. We've made the acquisition now in Argentina. We have a vineyard community. We have something in a seasonal a locale, right? It's beautiful. It's got wine growing as well, but they have winter, spring, summer, and fall. And so that seasonality is a climate type. And then the sizzle part is obviously the wine and the vineyards that goes with it. Ecuador, which is the eternal spring. This is the last strategic geography the company needs to acquire to be able to serve most client needs looking at the Americas. This is a big one for us. The 950 acres in Belize will expand our inventory there significantly. It's coastal. The vast majority of this 950 acres is developable, which is huge. It will add over a mile of coastline to our properties and to our assets. So very, very significant. These acquisitions are front and center, and this is really why we're actively pursuing additional fundraising at this moment. This last few slides, we just kind of talk about where we are from a share price perspective. We're going to be raising money for the next few years, and so I mean, there's no real urgency per se. We'd like to make the Ecuador acquisition sooner rather than later. I think the absorption and being able to integrate and take what we do in say Ecuador or the property in Belize and begin to get it to market sooner. It benefits everybody, benefits the consumer, benefits our company. But the reality is that the share price will be going up with each of these milestones. The Argentina acquisition moved our share price from $16.40 to $17.60. And so if you were in prior to that acquisition, you picked up about $1.20 in asset value, which is maybe about 8% in just a few months. The Marriott groundbreaking, which will happen right after Easter, so end of April, early May. That's going to pick up $1. I mean, that's $1 of asset value, which is about $6.5 million using our cap structure. We have about 6.5 million shares outstanding. When we add the property in Belize, that's a big one. That's about a $2.20 jump because it's 950 acres. It's a huge asset to our books. And then when the Marriott opens, that's going to add another $3 to the company stock price. So you can choose to join the company. You can choose to invest in the company whenever you would like. It's your choice, obviously. It's your money, it's your investment. But there are reasons that investing sooner rather than later probably makes sense. This is just a quick share chart. I've got two. This is if basically we just stay kind of where we are. We make the Belize groundbreaking. We make the acquisition of the 950 acres. And then the Marriott opens at the end of 2020. So we go from a $17.60 share price to a $23.80 share price. And that, that's really that demarcator right there at the end of 2020, early 2021 is when we plan to take the company public, and obviously invest at any point along there. But one of the things that we are focused on, our operations team, myself, is to absolutely make these other acquisitions, bring these other assets onto the books sooner rather than later. And so a share price today of $17.60, if we are successful in getting the joint ventures done with George on his Costa Rica properties, and we are successful in locating and acquiring a property in Ecuador, a $17.60 share price today, by the time we take the company public, would be $34, almost $35. And so just over a couple years, about 3 years, 2 to 3 years, there's a significant increase in the value of the company because of the new assets, and then also the share price to reflect that. So again, I just want to bring this up because I know many of you have watched us for years. In some cases, you've been to conferences, we've emailed back and forth, we've been on the phone together, and for whatever reason, it just has not been the right time. But I want this as sort of a, like, I don't know, disclosure statement to say, hey, the company is really moving, and if you want to get in, now really might be a great time to do that before these other acquisitions, before we break ground on the Marriott, and before the share price moves up. So I think with that, I've probably run my 20 minutes. I said 15, and I apologize. I went over by about a minute and a half. But Rachel, I know you have some questions coming in. Obviously, but before we go there, can you answer the question I asked, because I don't remember how many of the tiny homes in Belize have we taken reservations on at this point?
We have taken 4 reservations, Mike. As you mentioned, we really haven't done a promotion of it yet. We're still working through the site map with our architect. So these were from folks who wanted to get in first before we made that public announcement. So we have 4 out of the 21 homes at this point. I'm honestly expecting those to go pretty quickly once we do make that formal announcement. But we do like to reward the pioneers and the people who are joining us from the get-go. So I appreciate that. And if we have anybody who is one of those reservation holders online, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the benefits of being a shareholder is long before we announce any projects to the general public, our shareholders get to hear about it. And one of the things that everybody wants low price, right? The lowest price. And if you're a shareholder, you get the lowest price, and you actually get a 10% discount because we take the commission load out of the price, right? Because we don't have to pay a realtor, but we have to factor it in for any kind of retail pricing. So you get the lowest price, you get the 10% off of that because we take the commissions out. But here's what a shareholder actually, I think, is as important, if not more important. Shareholders get first pick. You're going to get the first look at whatever product we put out there. And why that's important is because not all product that's priced the same is the same in terms of location or view or orientation. And so, the tiny homes, I think there's 22, 23 of them or something like that being built in phase 1. Well, you know what? There are going to be 5 or 6 of them. They're going to be real cherries. And the rest of them are going to be pretty nice, but there's definitely going to be 5 or 6 that will be true cherries in the mix. And our shareholders get to look at it first, talk with our sales team, and see which units really might be the best for whatever reason, whether they catch the sunrise, the sunset, whatever it might be, the view. So that to me is a very, very big benefit of being a shareholder. Same thing is true in Argentina with the tiny homes and the condo project that we're developing there. Shareholders are going to have the first look on that. And while I'm talking about condos, Rachel, just give us a quick update. How many we have? We have 202 keys in the Marriott, and we've brought to market only 69 or 70 of them because ECI. Just understand, if you're an ECI shareholder, you are going to own up to no less than 60%, maybe as high as 70% of all the residences in that Marriott. We are only selling up to 69 units or 70 units out of 202. So ECI shareholders will benefit from the cash flow from those units, as well as all the food and beverage and all the other elements of the hotel itself. But out of the 69 or 70 units, Rachel, how many are committed at this point?
We're at about 42, and we're really excited about it. Since we announced Marriott, there's just been a huge buzz on the island and generally from people who are looking at Belize, because now they see this opportunity to get a room at Marriott Resort and Residences. And for those who understand the value of having a brand, specifically Marriott, it's been a home run.
Yep. And so we've sold 40 out of 70, so there's about 30, maybe 27 or 28 left or something like that.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Sounds good. So with that, why don't we start to go through questions? I see some folks have typed a couple in here. And for those of you who are either just joining us or perhaps you've been on the whole time and there are a couple of questions that have popped into mind, feel free to jot those into the questions section of the control panel, and we'll have Mike read those out loud, and then, or I'll read them out loud and then Mike will answer them for us. So the first question I'm seeing here is from Robert, and it's how much and what size are these tiny homes? Robert, these are tiny homes in Belize. They're over the water bungalows. We can certainly send you more information on it, but they're starting at about $139,900 plus furniture and closing costs. But these are in Belize, specifically on Ambergris Key. So we'll be launching them Q2 of 2019, and we'll certainly make sure that everybody's updated. And Mike, as you mentioned earlier, that the folks who are shareholders do get first right of refusal. So if you do decide to become a shareholder with us, then you'll get this opportunity before the general public.
And did he also ask how big they were?
Yes, and what size?
What size?
Tiny.
Yeah.
They're tiny. They're about 300 square feet of under roof space, and then in addition, there's the rooftop seating area and then the outdoor decking area as well. So it's about 550, 600 square feet of space, but about 300 under roof.
Yeah, and realistically, nobody's going to live in one of these. Somebody could. I mean, people do live in tiny homes all over the U.S. now. It's a new fad, a new trend. But what these really are very, very sexy, to use that word, very sexy accommodations, mostly for vacationers. And so if you own one, you can use it on vacation. But what most people are buying these for is to use it on vacation, a few weeks a year, whatever it might be, and then put it in a rental program thereafter. And for rental and investment, the best thing you can do is buy the smallest property that serves the consumer need, which is, people want a nice place, they want a hot shower, they want a nice warm bed. But most people coming to an island like Ambergris Key, they're not spending a whole lot of time in their room. And so you can actually acquire a small, tiny home, pay for the amount of construction that's being delivered, but give that guest experience and earn an outsized return on investment. So that seems to be one of the reasons, probably the main reason, that these tiny homes are really so popular. Very few people are going to live in them. Most people are going to vacation and then rent them when they're not there.
Perfect. So the next question that I'm seeing is, what is the exit strategy?
I assume we mean on ECI, right?
Yes.
Let's make that assumption. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, the exit strategy is twofold, right? I've been a shareholder from day one, which is now 23 years. And we have shareholders that have been shareholders for 20 plus years with us. I think every investor, every shareholder has sort of a different exit strategy in mind. Let me say that the exit strategy for many shareholders will be the IPO, the initial public offering. At that point, the shares will be liquid. The shares will be tradable on a public exchange, probably not a U.S. exchange. It'll probably be an overseas exchange. We've looked at the London AIM exchange, the alternative investment market in London. We've looked at the Canadian exchange, and even maybe the Bermuda exchange. But if we did go public, we would certainly look at the U.S. exchange. Probably, we'd look at it. One of the issues is the compliance costs, the Sarbanes-Oxley and other things on an ongoing basis. Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in compliance costs just to stay public. Other exchanges, big ones, the alternative investment market, the AIM exchange in London, much lower compliance costs. And you've got to pay them every year for as long as the company's in business. So, but anyway, but the exit strategy for a lot of shareholders will be the IPO. They can, sell their shares on the public exchange at that point. For us, for the company, let me speak for the company, and then I'll speak for me personally as well. For the company, the IPO is not really an exit strategy. The IPO is almost the starting gun for the business. And the reason I say that is, we'll take the company public. We plan to put, we've set aside 1 million shares to go public with from the Treasury. Those 1 million shares should bring in somewhere between $80 and $100 million for the company Treasury. We're going to take that money. We're going to deploy it in the various projects that we have. A big chunk of it, maybe up to half that money, would be deployed in our Grand Caribbean property, the Costa Rica property on the Caribbean side, to help fund up the construction of a world-class major marina and associated infrastructure. And the rest of the money would then be, put into the various projects to develop amenities or the first neighborhoods or new neighborhoods, whatever it might be. But we're going to take that big influx of cash as a company. We're going to redeploy it back into the business and grow the business. We're going to add more assets. We're going to make the assets we have more valuable. We're going to sell more real estate. We're going to sell it for higher prices. And so what will happen is that we'll be paying more dividends. And when we're paying more dividends, the share price will go up yet again. So for us, the corporate strategy is to take the company public, to get a large influx of capital, to expand and grow the business, to serve a much wider consumer need, more consumers and broader need. Now, me personally, I fully plan to sell about 10% of my stock, but I'm going to keep 90% of my stock, because what I want is the long-term cash flow. I want the dividends for the next 20, 30 years, however long I live. I'm 54 years old. If I make it to 85, that's 30 years. So I'll collect the dividends for the next 30 years, and then my kids will collect it for their lifetime, and then my grandkids will collect it. Because as crazy as it sounds, we are building a company that should be around for 100 years. Because you know what? For the next 17 years, 18 years, we're going to serve the baby boomers. And then when the baby boom generation is done retiring, the next generation is the Gen Xers, and then the Gen Yers, and then ultimately, the millennials. Rachel's generation will begin retiring in 50 years from now, or 40 years from now. And so, there will always be a group of people that want to retire overseas or live overseas. They don't have to be retirees, but people who want to live overseas. As long as our company is relevant in the marketplace, serving that consumer need, the company will be in business. And so I firmly believe that my children and my great-grandchildren will be receiving dividends from this company for decades to come. Again, exit strategy for shareholders will come initially with the IPO, and then anytime thereafter, of course, with because it'll be a public stock, you can sell your share, or you can sit on your shares and earn a nice dividend flow for decades. So I think there are multiple exit strategies depending upon what your investment goals and timelines are, and your estate planning and your legacy planning. If you have enough money to live on, maybe you want that dividend flow for the kids and the grandkids, or an educational foundation, or something along those lines. So I think people are going to have many different answers, but the IPO will open up an immediate exit strategy for all shareholders at that point.
Alrighty, very good. And I'm going to assume if it wasn't for ECI shares, if it was for the tiny home, that your exit strategy would simply be selling the tiny home since it will be yours. All right, so let's see. Next question that I just received in here is, and I think you started to touch upon this, Mike, is are you paying dividends?
Are we paying dividends? No, we are not paying dividends. All cash is being retained by the company. We've got a major push. We're getting the Marriott developed. I think we don't have the exact numbers, but we spent about $1.7, $1.8 million last year on the pre-development of the Marriott. Once we break ground, we'll have our funding allocated at that point, and we'll also have our deposits coming in from some of the condo buyers. So all of that kind of clicks into gear, probably by the middle end of May. Well, when that happens, the resources that we've been, pooling and pushing to the Marriott can then be diverted to the acquisition of a property in Ecuador. That is absolutely strategic and coming on the front burner right now. I'll be in Ecuador next week. I'll be meeting with some realtors that I've known for many years down there that have done a little bit of bird dogging for us. I'm going to ask them to get serious. I'm going to ask them to get cracking and bring me farms and properties that kind of fit our bullseye, and they understand. We've done enough back and forth now that they understand what a bullseye property looks like for us, and so it's coming front and center. So no dividends are being paid. All cash is being conserved and allocated towards the Marriott currently, but again, by end of April, mid-May, that will change. Those profits will all be focused on the acquisition of the property in Ecuador to add that last strategic geography to the company. I really, I think there will be at least one dividend before we go public, and then obviously building the pipeline of dividends. And in fact, what Rachel's doing with the Marriott is absolutely incredible. I at one point I kind of calculated what that dividend was, but I think it was around $2, $3 or something like that. That's already kind of penciled in once we finish the Marriott and hand people their keys, and that's huge. So building that pipeline of dividends for after we go public is critically important. But in between now and then, possibly one dividend in 2020. But all assets being allocated for the acquisition of the property in Ecuador and the initial development of that property. It's not just the acquisition, it's the acquisition and the rolling out of the first neighborhood. Proof of concept, right? To get something out there that people can come down, visit, buy a home, buy a condo, and have the nucleus of a community there. So all of that is right on the front burner right now.
Alrighty, perfect. Next question that I'm seeing here is you need to be an accredited investor to invest in ECI, correct? I have a brother-in-law who may be interested but is not accredited.
Yeah, that is correct. And Rachel, you have the accredited investor paperwork. I'm going to say roughly what it is, and Rachel has the actual forms that somebody has to fill out. But basically, if you have a net worth of $1 million or more, excluding your primary residence, or you're a single wage earner and earn $200,000 a year, or if you're a couple with joint income of $300,000 a year, you are by definition an accredited investor, and this investment would be open to you. The paperwork's very specific, and Rachel has it. And before we're even allowed to send you a copy of our business plan, prospectus, and PPM, that paperwork must be on file with us. So if you're interested, ask Rachel. She'll send you the paperwork, and we'll at least get that piece of it taken care of.
Okay, perfect. And the next question I'm seeing here is, when do you expect the breaking ground of Marriott?
Breaking ground on the Marriott is it's going to be multi-staged. How are we doing on time? I'm trying to see what time it is. Oh, we've got time. Okay. I also said we'd be done in 1 hour, so but we've got about 20 minutes left, so that's great. The breaking ground on the Marriott will be done in stages. The first stage will be the construction of the dive shop, dock, pier, and then also the I'm going to call it the industrial pier, a temporary pier along the seawall that we built to bring in the barges with all the stuff. I mean, in fact, we're using a metal frame construction. They're going to actually fabricate this metal frame in Portugal. It's a very special technology. They use a pinch cut. They've got coatings that are marine certified. So basically, they build it in Portugal. They disassemble it, or they take the parts and they put it in containers and send it over. So these containers will be docked on the seaside. They'll be offloaded onto the site and erected there. So we've got the initial construction of the industrial pier and then the commercial pier. As soon as the dock, dive shop, bar, and restaurant are up, then the first of the buildings will come down, which is the Crazy Canucks and restaurant. And we're doing disassembly. We're not actually tearing down. We're going to disassembly. The parts of the buildings that are reusable will be donated to various organizations that support folks who need things. I mean, they might need doors, windows, fixtures, lights, all of those kinds of things. So for a period of about 45 to 60 days, there'll be a disassembly of existing structures. By June, whatever's left and has not been donated will be raised to the ground. And then deep work, foundation work will begin on the actual, the concrete foundations, the pilings that go down to the bedrock. That'll begin in June, July, and by August, September, we will have the first visible signs of construction coming up out of the ground. If everything stays on schedule, we should have the first of the steel frame in by the end of September, early October. Those will come in, and they'll come in over a period of about 6 months, floor by floor. And so as the container of the steel frame comes in, they'll put the first floor. The next containers will be arriving. There's most of it's actually going to get done at the same time in Portugal, but the staging of the shipping, because we don't have the space on site. So it'll be landed, built, and that takes about 8 months to have all of that completed. The nice thing is, as soon as the first floor is erected, the interior people can actually be inside, beginning, the actual floors, walls, finish work. And so I mean, I've looked at the construction schedule. Our construction manager is a company called Gallo and Gallo. They've done big projects in the Caribbean. They've done U.S. projects as well, but they've done big projects in the Caribbean. They understand what it means to get things done, on budget, on time. They've done that. And that's something very, very challenging in the Caribbean and Central America, as I've learned over 25 years. So again, that tear down begins right after Easter. So the very last few days of April, early May, and from there it gets going. It's very exciting.
Perfect. And the last question is one that I have for you, Mike. I didn't plan to ask you this one, but as I look through the attendees here, we have quite a few attendees, all different backgrounds, different points in life. And my question to you would be, who do you think this investment is right for?
It depends on the time frame of, the exit strategy question that somebody asked is really a good one, and it's relevant. I think the investment is really an excellent investment for people who are looking for a diverse investment with one investment, right? I mean, if somebody wants to buy one of the tiny homes or the Belize, Marriott residences, or a home site in Argentina, I mean, those are all investments, or can be investments too, right? You can own that, you can rent it out, you can get some appreciation, you can sell it. But in each one of those cases, any singular property investment is just that. It's singular. And if you bought a tiny home in Belize and they had a horrible hurricane, Well, your business, I mean, nothing's going to happen to the structure. The structure, let me assure you, is going to be rock solid. It's built out of reinforced concrete. Nothing's happening to it. But if the marketplace, if it takes a year or two for Belize to kind of get back on its feet again, and we saw that in the Caribbean, right? I mean, the BVI got hit and other islands got pummeled, and it takes a year or two for the business to come back, right? So for a year or two, you're going to suffer, right? The nice thing about an ECI investment, if vacation is not part of the equation, if this is an investment, this is a return on investment, then owning ECI stock is actually the single best investment you can make because it's diversified. First of all, you're going to have one investment that is today in 5 countries, ultimately 6 or 7 countries, and spread across many different property types. And so if there's a hurricane in Belize and business is down for a year or two in Belize because the market's off and people aren't flying there for a few years, all the other countries, all the other projects would be doing business, right? So you'd suffer in one, and usually you have countries that are hot, and you have countries that are not hot, and the hot, the places that are hot, it changes, right? Costa Rica was hot for many years, and it's kind of off a little bit, but it's actually coming back, which is kind of interesting. It fell off, but it's coming back. Panama, extremely hot market for many years, and it's gotten a little bit soft, right? Belize right now is absolutely the hottest of the hot. I mean, this is a transitional moment for the country. Ambergris Caye is getting its first branded hotels right now. I mean, and our hotel, the Marriott, is actually going to be the first conference hotel that can actually seat 200 people for an event or a dinner. There's nothing else on the island, and only one other thing in the country that can do that. I mean, that's huge. I mean, this is transitional for the country and the type of event, conference, and tourism business that can be hosted. And we're going to be at the forefront of it. We're going to have the only property that can hold 200 people for dinner. So, I mean, I think we're going to get a lot of business. So does Marriott. Marriott thinks we're going to get a lot of business. They ran the feasibility studies. So, we ran them too. But the bottom line is, sorry, I wandered. The best investment as a singular investment for many reasons, but the primary one, diversification, is an ECI investment. And then the timelines. I mean, to be able to take your $17.60 and see that number. I mean, if it just pre-IPO, and this slide we're looking at right now, pre-IPO, because of the asset value, it's almost a double. And if we go public at $80 or $90 or $100 a share, I mean, that's a 5 times return in 3-4 years. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that kind of a return is phenomenal. So, I mean, there's the diversification aspect. There's the, I would call it the high return on investment factor. And then there's the I call it the Will Rogers factor, right? The Will Rogers factor. I mean, a great line. I don't care so much about my return on investment as my return of investment, right? I mean, great line by Will Rogers. And one of the things that is fundamental to who we are as a company is low or no debt. We have a little bit of debt on one of our properties that the Belize Marriott residences will sit on, but that'll get cleared up with the first disbursement from the lenders and deposits. So, by summer, that'll have no debt. We have a tiny line of credit with, I don't know, $350,000 on it. In our balance sheets, $40 million. So what's that? 1% or something. I mean, it's de minimis, the amount of debt we have as a company. And so what we really have are, today, 5 miles of beachfront property and 4,000 acres that we own. And so, if things go south, if there's another big worldwide economic recession, the company has all of these assets. These are real, tangible things. Many great investment ideas are just simply great investment ideas. It's a concept. It's a program, or it's patents on something, right? And that's all great. But when that stuff kind of fritters away, what's left? I mean, where's the beef, right? That advertisement, where's the beef, right? Well, with ECI, there's a lot of beef. I mean, there are a lot of tangible assets, a lot of hard assets that have worth and lasting worth. 5 miles of beachfront property, that is worth money, and it will always be worth money. And so, I think people invest for the upside, right? We invest for the upside. We want that, dividend return over many decades. We want the 5 times, 6 times return in, say, 3 years with an IPO, right? We want that, and we like the diversification because it takes the risk factor of any one country, one investment off the table. We're diversified, so that's a big thing. But investing in hard assets, investing in something tangible that has lasting worth, that to me equally factors into this equation. And I think that's why a lot of people really like owning ECI stock. I think that's why a lot of people invest in our company, is because it does have, it has history. We've been around for 23 years. Most of our competitors are gone. I mean, they're just simply gone. I mean, they didn't make it through the tough times. We've taken a very slow growth, prudent, no or low debt strategy, and it's paid off. We're in business. We're still in business, and we're doing well. I think I think those are all reasons that somebody might want to invest in ECI, right now.
Perfect. Well, very good, Mike. I think that you did a great job here. I thank you for sharing all of the updates with folks who are interested in becoming shareholders with us. What we'll do is we'll reach out to you if you have any other questions that are on your mind. We can happily set up a phone call to go through those with you and Mike. And from there, I'm going to say everybody have a really great evening. Have a great weekend. Expect to hear from Mike and me, and we'll look forward to going through your interests and goals with you.
Super. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Rachel, for getting it all together. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.